Hello and welcome to AJ Anatomy series. This is the platform where you will learn anatomy in simplified form that will not only help you to understand it but also to memorize it. Let's begin with the introduction to regional anatomy. Tissues and structures. The body is composed of four basic tissues: epithelium, connective tissue, muscle, and nerve. And every part of the body can only be made up of one or more of these four elements. The topics to discuss are skin, superficial fascia, deep fascia, ligaments, tendons, cartilage, muscle, bone, joints, mucous membranes, serous membranes, blood vessels, lymphatics, and lymphoid tissue. Skin. Skin consists of two components, epidermis and dermis. The surface epithelium of the skin is the epidermis and is of keratinized stratified squamous variety. The various skin appendages, sweat glands, sebaceous glands, hairs, and nails are specialized derivative of this epidermis, which is ectodermal in origin. Epidermis consists of 5 layers: stratum corneum, stratum lucidum, stratum granulosum, stratum spinosum, stratum basilae, the detail of which you will be learning in histology. While dermis, it is composed of papillary and reticular dermis. The deeper dermis is mesodermal in origin and consists of mainly bundles of collagen together with some elastic tissue, blood vessels, lymphatics, and blood flow. While partly due to its thickness and blood flow, the main factor determining the color of the skin is the degree of pigmentation produced by melanocytes, which are found mainly in the basal layer of the epidermis. The difference in the skin color between the light and dark skin races are not due to the differences in melanocyte numbers, for these are similar in all. In the darker skins, the melanocytes are more active and thus produce more pigment, but there are also racial differences between melanins which can vary in color from yellows to browns and blacks. Sweat glands. Sweat glands, they are distributed all over the skin except on the tympanic membranes, lip margins, nipples, inner surface of prepuce, glans penis, and labia minora. The greatest concentration is in the thick skin of the palms and soles and on the face. Sweat glands are coiled tubular structures that extend into the dermis and subcutaneous tissue. They are supplied by cholinergic fibers in sympathetic nerves. Apocrine glands, they are the large modified sweat glands confined to the axillae, areolae, periumbilical, genital, and perianal regions. Their ducts opens into the hair follicles or directly onto the skin surface. Their odorless secretions acquires a smell through bacterial action. They enlarge at puberty and undergo cyclical changes in relation to the menstrual cycle in females. They are supplied by adrenergic fibers in sympathetic nerves. Another appendicular derivative of epithelium is sebaceous glands. Sebaceous glands are small circular structures in the dermis where they open into the side of the hair follicles. They also open directly onto the surface of the hairless skin. The hairless skin of the lips, nipples, areola, inner surface of prepuce, glans penis, and labia minora are the areas where the sweat glands, these sebaceous glands open directly onto the surface. There are none on the palms or soles. They are particularly large on the face. Androgen acts locally on these glands which have no motor innervation. Hair. Hair and nails are a hard type of keratin. while the keratin of the skin surface is soft keratin. There is no new development of hair follicles after birth. Each hair is formed from the hair matrix, a region of epidermal cells at the base of the hair follicle, which extends deep into the dermis and subcutaneous tissue. As the cells move up inside the tubular epidermal sheath of the follicle, they lose their nuclei and become converted into the hard keratin hair shaft. Melanocytes in the hair matrix impart pigment to the hair cells. The change with the age is due to decreasing melanocyte activity. Most follicles have an arrector pylori muscle. These arrectopylori muscles, they are attached to the connective tissue of the base of the follicle and passing obliquely to the upper part of the dermis. When this smooth muscle with a sympathetic innervation contracts to make the hair stand on end, it may also squeeze the sebaceous gland that lies between the muscle and the hair follicle. Hair follicles are richly supplied by sensory nerves. Nails. Nails consist of nail plates lying on nail beds on the dorsum of the terminal segment of finger toes. Here you can see the nail bed, and these are the nail plates. Compacted keratin-filled squamous form the nail plate, which develops from the epidermal cells of the nail matrix deep to its proximal part. Here the nail plate is overlapped by the skin of the proximal nail fold. Blood vessels and sensory nerve endings are plentiful in the nail bed. Blood and lymph vessels. Blood vessels bring nutrients and oxygen to the skin and remove cell waste and cell products. The blood vessels also carry the vitamin D produced in the skin back to the rest of the body. Enlarged vessels that can be seen through the skin are known as spider veins or varicose veins. Broken blood vessels appear as bruises. The lymph vessels bathe the tissues of the skin with the lymph, a milky substance that contains infection-fighting immune system cells. The cells work to destroy any infection or invading organism as the lymph gradually circulates back through the body tissue to the lymph nodes. Arteries of the skin. Here you can see this is the epidermis, and this one is the dermis, and this is the hypodermis, which is also known as subcutaneous tissue. These arteries of the skin derive from a tangential plexus at the boundary between the dermis and the subcutaneous connective tissue. Branches from this plexus form a subpapillary network in the dermis. Arteriovenous anastomoses are abundant in the skin. Veins and lymphatics. The veins have a similar arrangement to the arteries. From a meshwork of lymphatic capillaries in the papillary layer of the dermis, lymphatic pass to a network between the dermis and hypodermis and then run centrally with the blood vessels. A little bit about surface area of the skin. The skin is the largest organ of the human body, accounting for about 16% of a person's total body weight. Most adult skin weighs in at 20 pounds or more, equals to 9 kg. The proportionate surface area of the skin over different regions of body can be estimated by the rule of nines, and this is useful in assessing the need for fluid replacement after burns. This rule is a guide to the size of the body parts in relation to the whole. So, according to the rule of 9, head and neck comprises up to 9% of the total body surface area. The anterior arm 4.5%, posterior arm 4.5%, composing almost 9% for the upper limb, 9% for the upper limb, anterior upper torso 9%, anterior lower torso 9%, posterior upper torso 9%, posterior lower torso 9%, perineum 1%, anterior leg thigh, right thigh 9%, posterior right thigh 9%, anterior left thigh 9%, and the posterior left thigh 9%, comprising 18% for both each lower limbs. Tensile lines of the skin. These lines of the skin are due to the patterns of arrangement of collagen fibers in the dermis. The skin creases such as the flexor lines over joints and the wrinkles of the aging run parallel with the tensile lines. The clinical importance of these lines are incisions made along the skin tension lines healed with a minimum of scarring. Here you can see how these relaxed skin tension lines are there on the face of an aging person, and how these incisions are planned so that the wound that is healed will heal with a minimum scarring. Superficial fascia. The skin is connected to the underlying bones or deep fascia by a layer of loose areolar connective tissue known as superficial fascia. Superficial fascia is of variable thickness and fat content. Flat sheets of muscles are also present in some regions, like skeletal muscles, platysma and palmaris brevis, and smooth muscles, subareolar muscle of the nipple, dartos, muscles of the scrotum, and corrugator cuti ani. So here you can see the superficial fascial membrane, which is the superficial fascia. This one is the deep fascia that we will be discussing in our next slides. This layer is most distinct on the lower abdominal wall, where it differentiates in two layers, fascia of Camper and fascia scarpa. Strong connective tissue bands traverse the superficial fascia, binding the skin to the underlying aponeurosis of the scalp, palm, sole. Talking about deep fascia, the limbs and body wall are wrapped in a membrane of fibrous tissue called deep fascia. It varies widely in thickness. In iliotibial tract of the fascia lata, it is very well developed. Over the rectus sheath and external oblique of the abdominal wall, it is so thin that it is considered as absent. In face and ischial and anal fossa, it is entirely absent. So here is a deep fascia. Where it passes directly over the bone, it is always anchored firmly to the periosteum. In the neck, as well as the investing layer of deep fascia, there are other deep facial layers enclosing neurovascular structures, glands, and muscles. Intermuscular septa are laminae of the deep fascia. Here you can see the intermuscular septa, which extend between muscle groups, becoming continuous with the periosteum of the bones. Transverse thickenings of deep fascia over tendons attached at their margins of bones form retinacula at the wrist and ankles, and fibrous sheaths on the fingers and toes. Here you can see the flexor, the extensor retinaculum, the inferior one, this one is the superior one. Both are deep facial in origin. Deep fascia keeps the underlying structure in position and preserves the characteristic surface contour of the limbs and necks. It provides extra surface for muscular attachment, helps in venous and lymphatic return, assists muscles in their action by the degree of tension and pressure it exerts upon their surfaces. Nerve supply to deep fascia. Deep fascia is very sensitive. Its nerve supply is that of subcutaneous, periosteum is that of the overlying skin, and the nerve to the muscle supply the intermuscular septa and deep periosteum. That's all for today. We'll be back with more of introduction to regional anatomy in upcoming video. Thank you for watching.